Hey y'all, welcome back to another edition of Confederate Shop's Hidden Gem of the Week. This is where I take one book out of my library and I tell you why you should have it in yours. So this past week I was doing some reading, as I always am, and I came across a historical quote by Charles Dickens, the famous 18th century writer, and the quote really brought a book to my mind. Now I'm just going to give you the quote before I tell you this week's hidden gem. The quote is, "The northern onslaught upon slavery is no more than a piece of specious humbug designed to conceal its desire for economic control over the southern states." Now, this quote brought this book to mind, When in the Course of Human Events, Arguing the Case of Southern Secession by Charles Dickens. Now, as many of you know, if you're not familiar with the so-called American Civil War, you probably heard that it's all about slavery. That the South and the Southern soldier fighting on the battlefield was waging war, racing into the cannon fire because they were trying to save the institution of slavery, and the vice versa. The Northern soldier was valiantly on the battlefield, running into cannon fire and musket fire so he could set the slaves free. Well, I can tell you that there is nothing farther from the truth. And this book, When in the Course of Human Events, is a great primer on the reason for and cause of the war, much of which, like Charles Dickens states, is economic and about money, really, is what it comes down to. Just to give you a little background information of what was going on prior to the war between the states, you had the nullification crisis prior to the 1850s, but by the 1850s, the South was paying 87% of federal revenues. And roughly out of that 87% of federal revenues that were paid, 80% was spent on northern improvements. Obviously, this would cause a lot of division between the southern states and the northern occupied federal government at the time. Now, it's also spoken of in certain secession documents, one of which comes out of South Carolina by Robert Rhett, entitled An Address to the People of South Carolina. So there is sufficient evidence to show that taxes, tariffs, and economic issues were a very big reason for the division finally in the 1860s. So Charles Dickens here in the book, When in the Course of Human Events, it's a great primer on the war. Charles Dickens is an expert in the area of taxation and economics. He's a leading scholar with the von Mises Institute, and you might have heard of that from another author that I sell and feature in my shop, which is Thomas D. Lorenzo and The Real Lincoln, Lincoln Unmasked. He has a bunch of other books, How Capitalism Saved America. So there's some really good economic points in this book, When in the Course of Human Events. And like I said, it's a great primer too. This is why my father would recommend this to customers years and years ago. And it is an entertaining read. He's a good writer, obviously, and he cites all his materials, which is very important today with our adversaries. They want everything written in stone, so it is cited material. So get yourself a copy of this book this week. It's well worth it if you don't have it on your shelf already. And I specifically would recommend it for somebody in your family that doesn't know a whole lot about the war and you want to make a good case for the Southern cause. This is a good book to do so. So get it on sale now this weekend. It'll be on sale probably until Monday. Obviously, you can get it after that, but I'm going to have it probably on a 10 to 20% mark off on my website. So there's a link below. Check it out. And thank you all again for supporting my work here at ConfederateShop.com. I do sincerely appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day.